I'd like to talk about B-flat rhythm changes for this video lesson. Part 1 on rhythm changes will be about the chords used and how to approach them, while Part 2 will give you some idea of what to practice over certain passages and rhythm changes. It's an interesting subject, as I can tell during rhythm changes, a blues and a ballad, where most people are coming from and if they are rooted in the language of modern jazz. Here are some samples of the chords used in rhythm changes in concert for B-flat instruments. They are duplicates, but in concert and for B-flat instruments. Are these changes definitive? Not really. It's what I've come up playing with New York City musicians and studying fake books and recordings for over 30 years. For instance, I've Got Rhythm, the original song that is, used only dominant chords on the bridge. As Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie came onto the scene, the 2 minor chord was often used before the dominant chord. As to which is hipper, it all depends on what you play. For instance, the bridge to Dizzy Gillespie's tune, Ow, uses the dominant approach without the 2 chord before it. Now that's pretty hip. It doesn't get much hipper than that. Now let's look at the chord changes on my native instrument, the trumpet, a B-flat instrument. The first 4 bars of B-flat consonant rhythm changes are 2 turnarounds. A turnaround is a chord progression of 1, 6, 2, 5, or 3, 6, 2, 5. On a B-flat instrument, that would be C major, or C7 in this case, A minor, or A dominant, D minor 7 to G7, or 1, 6, 2, 5, followed by another turnaround, E minor 7 to A minor, or A dominant, D minor 7 to G7, a 3, 6, 2, 5. And the cool thing is that they are pretty much interchangeable and the tonal center is C major. The 7th and 8th bar is a 3, 6, 2, 5 of E minor 7 to A dominant 7, then D minor 7 to G7, so we have 3 turnarounds in the first A section alone. It's all pretty much in the same key of C major. In fact, even though the first chord change is C7, I am mostly thinking of a C major as the first chord. Occasionally I think of a C7 there to change things up, but mostly C major. If you look at the 3rd bar, the 2nd chord on beats 3 and 4, the 6th chord in that bar, the A dominant 7, there is a slight change in my thought pattern, as an A7 has a C sharp as the 3rd, which is not in the diatonic scale of C major. Some players, Miles Davis and Tom Harrell come to mind, almost never use the A7, which includes the C sharp in the third bar, meaning the tonal center is C major, but Miles and Tom still use many interesting substitutions. You can pretty much take the first two bars and use them to replace the third and fourth bars. If you are using an A minor, the 6 minor as opposed to the 6 dominant of A7, you are truly in the key of C. Using this as thought in a passage, you might approach the first 4 bars of rhythm changes like this. Other players like Freddie Hubbard like to use both methods, as I like to do, as it opens up many different possibilities. And here is an example of using the A7 instead of the A minor as the 6th chord in the third bar of rhythm changes. Now here comes a very interesting part to me. The 5th and the 6th bar leave the tonal key center of C momentarily. We have G minor 7 to C7 to F major or F7 to B flat 7, and then a 3-6-2-5 in C, E minor 7, A minor or A dominant 7, D minor 7 to G7. On the repeat, the second A section is the same as the first 6 bars, and the 7th and the 8th bars are a 2-5-1 in C major of D minor 7 to G7 to C major. The bridge could be 2 bars apiece of E7 to A7 to D7 to G7, and the G7 comfortably resolves to C major. This was the traditional way to do it, but as bebop came into play, so did putting the 2 minor before the dominant in the bridge of rhythm changes. So you would have a bar apiece, B minor 7, E7, E minor 7 to A7, A minor 7 to D7, and then D minor 7 to G7. The third A section is like the second A section. So playing over rhythm changes could be as complex or as simple as you'd like. The important thing is that it's melodic and pleasant to listen to. Here's an example of one course of rhythm changes I wrote out for study. And yes, it's okay to write your thoughts out on paper, and yes, it's okay as an improviser to work on different ways to go through the chord changes on any particular song. You're still improvising, just at a slower pace. Thanks for watching. This wraps up the lesson on playing through B-flat rhythm changes, Part 1. If you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to ask in the comments section below. Also, feel free to subscribe to my channel for updates on my newest jazz video lessons.